There was a point in time during the event, maybe 3 hours into it, and there's nobody was on the stage, and we started weeping. And I mean noise, I mean snot, the whole thing. And no matter what kind of brother, whether he was feminine, tall, old, young, we just leaned on each other. And there was no criticism or concern about anybody's aesthetic or their demeanor. And we went into this place of moaning and crying. Did you see that? Were you there?
No, I was there. But see, because I think people forget that it was called a Day of Atonement.
Right.
It's like you folks want to mention everything else, but it was called a Day of Atonement.
But what we missed is engaging that pain that brothers live with, that's always on the surface of our soul, that causes a lot of us to go off because there's been no place to actually deal with that and heal. And one of my concerns, I'm sure that the tomorrow's event is going to be good and powerful, but I think that black men need to have that moment again, and this time engage it and be explicit about the importance of transforming and healing that pain that we live with, that sometimes makes us go off in the midst of a cop and our lives is at risk, or become abusive to each other, because there's this thing we're living with, that's this pain that for the first time in my life I saw it on a grand scale, but nobody addressed it. It was never talked about. And that's why I was wondering if it was in your piece, because every time I see a talk about this event, no one addresses that issue.
Got it.
Yeah, we've covered it, from gavel to gavel. We had 6 cameras out there that day. We're going to have 10 cameras out there tomorrow. And we condensed it into a 1-hour program, the official documentary of the Million Man March, the Million Man March story. We started taping about 6 weeks before the march, and we carried it on through the march and on from there. There was a lot of emotion, a lot of spirituality, a lot of energy in that march that day. And brothers did cry. Brothers did embrace each other. Brothers were extremely courteous and supportive and in unity. And that is what people remember from that march. There was no hesitation in our inclusiveness as brothers that day.
Absolutely.
But now this time we have Native Americans coming, we have Hispanics coming, we have women coming, gays and Asians coming. So it's going to be an interesting mix of cultures and issues tomorrow on the Mall.
Jamal, final comment in terms of what you want people to take away from Justice or Else. What is it they need to understand what this is actually about?
I think it speaks to my brother's observation of so much was poured out on that day in terms of emotion. Part of the challenge tomorrow is realizing that we're in a critical election cycle. 1 million African Americans, Latino, Asians, and we not talk about what is our political agenda, doing voter registration en masse. How is it that we move for reform? That I talk about our next step after protest is policy. We cannot come to the nation's capital and not give some redress. Roland and I were at the Congressional Black Caucus and said the real cause for us is after we leave here, are we going to keep coming back here? Not to march, but to lobby. And so I think that tomorrow history is going to be made because we're really going to pull together some political alliances. What are we asking of these 9 million people running for president? What are we demanding of them? And not just on the presidential level, we've got 30 mayoral elections that are critical to the black populace that have to be addressed, and our young people have got to be engaged too.
Gentlemen, I certainly appreciate it. Thank you so very much. Up next on this News One Now primetime special, Dr. Jason Johnson, Angela Robb, Faraji Muhammad, and Adam Jackson right here on TV One.